Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about PlayStation 4 emulation with ShadPS4. Now, we have talked about ShadPS4 in the past. We have talked about ShadPS4 booting Bloodborne in the past. And now we're talking about ShadPS4 booting Bloodborne and getting in-game. I'm not joking with you here. Bloodborne is not playable yet. But at the same time here, Bloodborne is getting in-game and things are rendering. This is a massive leap forward for ShadPS4, and I would say a massive win for the emulator. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to a couple of YouTube videos in the description below, and feel free to check them out. And Brutal Sam's video here also has Dark Souls Remastered going in-game. It's very impressive overall. ShadPS4 is shaping up real nice. And speaking about shaping up nicely, next up we're talking about PlayStation 2 emulation with PCSX2. Now, PCSX2 keeps making improvements to an already very well-rounded emulator. So with one of the latest updates to PCSX2, they have fixed broken textures in ATV Off-Road Fury 2 when you're upscaling. So here is the previous picture, and well, here's the after, and you can see the textures are no longer broken, the map is working properly, everything is loading in correctly. And continuing to talk about improvements, next up we're talking about PlayStation 3 emulation. We went from PS4 to PS2, now right in the middle to PS3. And we're talking about RPCS3, and RPCS3 has introduced some new features you may be interested in. So with one of the latest updates to RPCS3, they have added a shortcut for toggling emulated mouse and keyboard. And they say here they've added a shortcut to the game window for toggling mouse and keyboard modes. It's Control F11 for now. You can always toggle modes using this shortcut while the game is running. On top of that, RPCS3 has added in a brand new option here to enable users to cancel reject friend requests. So instead of having a whole bunch pile up and remain stagnant, you can get rid of them. And on top of that, there's a brand new option here to enable users to change their country code. And this is right in the main config window. RPCS3 has got some awesome improvements. Moving on, and this one's a real quick heads up if you've got a Snapdragon CPU with an Adreno GPU. If you're using Mesa Turnip drivers, there's brand new Mesa Turnip drivers available, version 24.3.0 revision 3. As for what's changed here, there's general optimizations and bug fixes. As with pretty much every single Mesa Turnip driver release, this may or may not work better for you, and it's probably worth checking out. But moving on, and next up we're quickly talking about Uzuy, or Uzuy, or subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or however you want to pronounce it. We've talked about this one in the past. It's a fork of Uzuy for Android. Unfortunately, at this time, I can still not recommend this emulator. However, I do have a bit more information about it. So they have opened up the source code. Previously, it was closed source, but now it's back to being open source. Now, there's two different versions of Uzuy, MMJR, which is supposed to be the experimental, more up-to-date version, and also Uzuy Edge, which is supposed to be the stable version. So the source code for this one is up over on codeberg.org, and there is a bit of misinformation, or possibly just misunderstanding, on the whole custom drivers for Mali GPU. So Uzuy has the option for people with a Mali GPU to upload a custom driver. However, as to whether or not that custom driver is going to work or improve anything remains yet to be seen. And on top of that, there are no custom drivers right now for Mali GPUs. I mean, there are updated Mali GPU drivers out there that are official, but there is no custom Mali GPU driver yet, and nothing that would improve things over an official driver. Now, from my understanding, Phoenix here, who is the main developer of Uzuy, is new to Android development. At this point in time, I still cannot recommend Uzuy. However, I'm curious to see what happens with this one. Phoenix is taking the project seriously, so I'm wondering if they can make improvements over Uzuy and have it not be one of the many forks that just kind of die off on the side. Next up is a friendly heads up if you're a fan of fighting games, maybe not the best fighting games out there, but fighting games and chaotic fighting games with friends. Namco is bringing Knuckleheads to PS4 and also Nintendo Switch on August 15th. Now, this is an up to 4-player game. I wouldn't say it's the best game out there. I think there's like 6 characters or something like that. But at the same time here, this might be fun with friends, especially after a few drinks or possibly after a whole bunch of sugary snacks. Now, Knuckleheads was originally released back in 1993. Unfortunately, I don't know if this is going to remain exclusive to Japan or if it will be coming overseas. I guess time will tell. Next up, we're talking about something absolutely crazy. This news has been making its rounds on the internet and, well, also on this channel now. And it's the most gaming consoles connected to a TV. There's a brand new Guinness World Record for it, and it stands at 444 consoles connected to a TV at once. Honestly, this is super impressive. He's got a whole bunch of consoles from very old to very new. I mean, I saw a Steam Deck in there. This is super impressive, super cool. I'll drop a link to the video in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. And even the comments here are golden. I would have loved to have been the official that got to verify that all the consoles were connected up to the TV. Me too. And his cable management is on point, well-deserved world record. Next up is a quick heads up about Gamescom. Now, Gamescom is occurring between August 21st to August 25th, with opening night happening on August 20th. And Jeff Keighley has confirmed that on opening night, there will be new game announcements. It appears that he's trying to make this event as impressive as possible, and having game announcements right on opening night, well, that's a pretty good start. Next up, we're talking about Concord, which is an upcoming 5v5 shooter for PlayStation and PC from Firewalk Studios. This one is releasing next week on August 23rd, and PlayStation has just outlined its overall roadmap. If you are curious about this one and wanted to read up on all the details, I'll drop a link to the article in the description below and feel free to check it out. The game releases on August 23rd, Season 1 starts in October, Season 2 starts in January, and Season 3, it looks like, starts in April. On top of that, it appears that with each season there's going to be a new character, new map, possibly new modes, quality of life improvements, and even more. Next up, we're talking about Omega 6 The Triangle Stars. Now, if the artwork in this game looks somewhat familiar to you, it's probably because you played Star Fox before. The Star Fox artist is in charge of the artwork in this game here, and this game is getting a full English release. This game will be hitting Steam and the Nintendo Switch sometime in 2025. And fun fact here, the sound in this game was done by the person behind Stunt Race FX and also Wario's Woods. And speaking about stuff that's being translated into English here, we're talking about Bakeru. I might have mispronounced that. Anyways, this game was previously released in Japan only for the Nintendo Switch, and it's going to be released overseas now and in English on September 3rd. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to the trailer in the description below and feel free to check it out. It's being hailed as the spiritual successor to Goemon. And speaking about Goemon, next up here we're talking about Video Game Esoterica, and I think we've talked about this game in the past here, but Video Game Esoterica has just put out a brand new video that you may be interested in checking out if you're interested in Goemon. Goemon Recomp now in English. Mystical Ninja PC Recompilation is here with updates. There's a whole lot of gameplay, there's a whole lot of information, and I'll drop a link to this video in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Next up, we're talking about Stormgate, which is a free-to-play real-time strategy game being developed by ex-Blizzard folk and people who worked on games like StarCraft and Warcraft and Command & Conquer and even more. Anyways, here, this game is free to play. It's in early access, and they just dropped a brand new early access video. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Now, Stormgate is available on PC. It's been available since the end of July. It's been receiving mixed reviews, and the development team say that it's going to be in early access for about a year. They're still working through a whole bunch of things. Now, I have not played Stormgate, but if you have, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below, and let me know your experiences with the game and if they've been poor. Do you think they have a chance here to turn it around, or do you think there's just a holistic problem with the game that's not going to get much better? Moving on, and we're talking about Google. Now, yesterday, Google launched their Pixel 9 series of phones to apparently a whole bunch of success. Anyways, here we've talked about something previously with Google that is the opposite of arguably success. So anyways, there's a court case between the US Department of Justice and Google where Google was ruled as monopolistic. Anyways, here there's some speculation as to what might come moving forward from that case, and the US Department of Justice might ask for a breakup of Google, like spinning off Android and/or Chrome. Now, to be honest with you, I really don't see that happening. That would be an absolute extreme move, and Google would fight back in full force. You better believe it. I think there are some other options on the table here, like requiring Google to divest or license its data to rivals like Microsoft's Bing or DuckDuckGo. That would seem far more plausible. And if I'm not mistaken, they tried to separate Windows from Microsoft a while back, and that didn't go well either. I mean, if you are curious about that one, I'll drop a link to this Time article in the description below, and feel free to check it out. Realistically here, I don't see Android going away from Google, but I could be wrong. Things could be crazy. And speaking about Android phones, next up here, we're talking about something absolutely crazy. I'll drop a link to this video in the description below. Realme has announced 320 watt wired charging. I am not joking with you here. If this is an actual thing, then you can charge from 0 to 100% in around 5 minutes on your phone, or 4 minutes and 30 seconds. That's absolutely nuts for charging. Now, I've got a few questions here, like is 320 watts going to cook the phone in the process? And also, how much is a 320 watt charger going to cost? On Amazon, yes, there are 320 watt chargers. However, that's not 321 watts for one single port. I mean, they say here they've got a 65 watt port on this one. This one here is one 100 watt port. The whole charger can support up to 300 watts, but not for one port. Moving on, and we're switching from Android to iOS, and this is a quick one and an interesting one based on how things have been going so far. But Epic Games has announced that Fortnite, Rocket League, Sideswipe, and the Epic Games Store have all been submitted to Apple for final notarization. They say stay tuned for the launch of the Epic Games Store on iOS in Europe soon. And I'm wondering, is there going to be another unforeseen delay? Now, this was submitted back on August 12th. We haven't heard anything since, but I'm curious to see if Apple is finally going to let this go through and if they're going to allow it to go through in other areas as well, or just the EU. Next up, we're talking about one of the most popular things on GitHub right now. It's all around deepfakes, and it's called Deep Live Cam. They say here it's able to convert a single image into a live stream deepfake, instant and immediately. If you are curious about this one and wanted to learn more about it, I'll drop a link to it in the description below, and feel free to check it out. There's instructions here on how to install it, there's instructions on how to use it, and there's even a webcam mode. This thing is absolutely crazy, and I can see a lot of people using this to generate a lot of controversy. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Next up here, we're quickly talking about Alone in the Dark Remastered, and version 1.0 of this game has just released. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to this YouTube trailer in the description below. Or you can check out their itch.io page, where currently it's a name your own price, and it's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So the development team says this is their official answer to a remaster never being developed for the original 1992 classic Alone in the Dark. A modern remake was released this year, but it's not the remake or remaster that fans, including ourselves, wanted. Just another typical over-the-shoulder shooter with none of the original designs of the original game, mansions, sound effects, and pretty much nothing that make Alone in the Dark the masterpiece it really was. This is a faithful, nearly one-to-one remake of the original game with remastered soundtrack, completely new graphics, and redesign, but keeping as faithful as possible to the original game. If you are curious about this one, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Next up, this is incredible news if you've gotten a Asus ROG Ally. I mean, we've talked about this one before, and it was unofficial when we saw some of the changes that were upcoming for SteamOS. But now it is confirmed. Valve confirms it'll support the ROG Ally with SteamOS. This is absolutely fantastic. They say SteamOS will support rival handhelds once Valve is happy with it. Again, like everything I talk about, the link will be in the description below, and feel free to check up on it if you wanted to read more about it. But at a real high level here, in my opinion, if you get SteamOS on something like the ROG Ally, I would say performance is going to be a lot better. There's a lot less overhead than running something like Windows. Compatibility will be down because Windows game compatibility is obviously better than Linux. But at the same time here, this I think is going to open a lot of doors to a lot of fun stuff for the ROG Ally. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And last up here, we're talking about Diablo in your browser because yes, that's a thing. And if you don't believe me, again, check the link in the description below. Anyways, it says here, this is a web port of the original Diablo game based on source code reconstruction. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. It works with a purchased version of the game, it works with a shareware version of the game, and I think this one is very impressive. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. And for reference right now, the one fluff is cuddling upstairs with Mrs. Sujano, so I'm not going to bother her. We talked about a bunch in this video. Let me know your thoughts about anything in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.